Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you've all had a lovely week. So today I'm coming at you with a top tips video. So I don't know what I've titled it yet, it might be a bit in the script, but basically I wanted to do 10 top tips on how to make really key items for your wardrobe. I know it can be quite difficult to look at patterns and find inspiration from them. It can also be quite difficult to find inspiration of what you want to be wearing, the fabrics that you should match up with what pattern, etc, etc. So I wanted to cover it all today and let you know some of my top tips. So top tip number 1 is clear out your wardrobe. Find out where your gaps are. So do you have more workwear than casual wear? Do you have more casual wear than workwear? Are you good with summer clothes, winter clothes, spring, autumn? Where are your gaps? Also, try on everything and work out what outfits you've got. So have you got a really lovely pair of trousers but you don't have a top to go with? Or have you got a really lovely top that you've never worn because you don't know what to pair it with? Work out what you need in your wardrobe and then create that as your sewing project. Top tip number 2, as you're clearing out your wardrobe and you're trying on lots of clothes, work out which styles flatter you, what you get the most wear out of, what you feel most comfortable in, and stick to the styles and shapes that flatter you. Obviously you can try new things, but if you're wanting to make something that's going to be really well worn and key on your wardrobe, stick to things that flatter you. So if you find that something that comes in the waist is more flattering, then make something like that. Work out what necklines really flatter you and what you feel most confident in. Sleeve lengths, what do you wear the most, what do you get the most wear out of. All of those sorts of things. Do you like dresses more, tops more, trousers? Work out what's most worn and make something along the same lines, and then you know that you'll get the wear out of it. Top tip number 3 is about finding inspiration. So one of the main things that I like to do is I like to look at what's in the shops at the moment. This might be going down the high street and looking at what's in the high street stores, or I absolutely love looking online at sort of the high-end fashion retailers. I'll go on sites such as Farfetch, Net-a-Porter. If I know of any brands that I love, I'll look on their websites and I'll see what they've got in and what, if I had the money, I would be buying. I like to look at higher end stuff and sort of set that as a goal that I want to achieve. I want to achieve something as beautiful and as nice a quality as those items. But equally, earlier in the year I made a corset top, and corset tops at the moment are everywhere in high street stores. So that's sort of where the inspiration came. I'd seen them everywhere and I'd gone, oh, I'd quite like one of those. So have a look at what's in the shops, what's in style, what's in fashion. A lot of the stuff I make tends to be quite timeless, but it is quite nice to see what shapes and styles are in at the moment. My next top tip, along the same lines as finding the inspiration, is to look on websites such as Pinterest. I love Pinterest. It has everything you could possibly want on there. And then you can save it all to inspiration boards. I've got one that's titled Future Sewing Projects, but equally you could have like summer fashion board or an autumn fashion board. Split it up however you want to. But then you can organise all your thoughts and pictures and ideas in one place, which is great to look back at. The other places I get lots of inspiration is I follow some great fashion content creators on YouTube and Instagram, and they'll quite often promote brands that I then find that I love, or show me styles and outfits that I love, and I'll take a lot of inspiration from them and normally add those to the Pinterest boards that I'm creating anyway. I also find that I'm inspired by a lot of vintage fashion. I tend to get things like that from my catwalk books, which, don't know whether you can see, I've got a Dior one sat behind me. You're currently sat on a Versace one as well. But I love looking through those, seeing what the top designers have made in the past and what I fancy making. Okay, so once you've decided what you want to make and what you need in your wardrobe, you need to decide on the details. So one of these details is colours. I find that I'm trying to create more of a capsule wardrobe where I can pair multiple things with multiple different items. What my aim is I like colour, but I'm trying to keep colour to the bottom half, so make colourful trousers, skirts of any sort of style, and then keep lots of my tops in like whites, neutrals, blacks, and then they'll be able to pair with lots of things. You could do it the other way around. You could, maybe you prefer a neutral palette, maybe you prefer a more colourful palette, but work out whether you can pair this item with lots of different things in your wardrobe and how it's going to fit. It comes back to that clear out your wardrobe sort of point, where you don't want to be making an item where you're making like a pair of trousers or a skirt, but you don't have a clue what to wear on the top half with it. You want to be making something which you can really easily wear with what's in your wardrobe. Leading on nicely from the last point, I'm going to say my next top tip is to think about the small details. So anything from a button to what type of zip you use to where you place a dart or a seam, they can all make such a huge difference to the visual effect of your garment. It's the big difference normally from a high street brand to a high-end brand. It might just be a difference of a button between the blazers, but it makes such a big difference, and it makes the high-end stuff so desirable to the consumer. So why wouldn't you want to do the same with your garments? If it's normally the little tiny details are so cheap and so easy to produce, and yet they make something so much more desirable, why wouldn't you do it? So what I'm going to say is, don't just think about the pattern and the shape and the fabric, think about everything. Are you going to put buttons on it? Can you put buttons on it? What about lapels or an invisible zip compared to an exposed zip? What do you want the garment to look like? What finish do you want it to have? Do you want a seam running down the front of your trouser, or do you want it seamless? That's the sort of things that you need to be thinking about. I have no idea which top tip we're on now, but there are 10, honest. But the next one I'm going to say is choose the patterns to suit what you're wanting. Don't find your inspiration from patterns. Sewing patterns are difficult because a lot of the time the pictures are quite outdated, or they're not necessarily fashion forward. They can be made for an older generation or a younger generation, and it's really hard to find your inspiration from a pattern and a picture on the front of a pattern. So decide what you want and then find a pattern to match. I tend to alter my patterns quite a lot, so I'll give you 2 examples from what I've made recently. So I made the wide leg trousers here in some linen fabric. Obviously on this pattern they're styled up, they're probably in like quite a heavy wool fabric, there's big turn-ups at the bottom, there's loads of buttons, but because I wanted a wide leg linen trouser, I wanted it as simple and classic as possible. So I looked at the shape and thought, that will give me the shape, the waist, I'll be able to use that pattern, but I'll ignore the turn-up and I'll remove that, and I won't put the buttons on the front. You don't have to follow a pattern directly. A pattern is there to guide you and show you a basic shape. If it does that, you can adjust it as much as you want as far as the length, the style, any finishings, any fastenings. I find quite a lot of the time they'll put a normal zip in a pattern and I'll be like, oh, I'd prefer an invisible zip. It's fine, you can change it. The other pattern I've done recently was when I made the corset top, I used a standard corset pattern just because it was what I could find and it was cheap and it was easy. But for this one, I knew that I was making it out of a much plainer fabric. It was going to look nothing like what's on the front of this pattern. I also cropped it a little bit so it was a bit more modern fitting. But again, it gave me the basic shape, it gave me the pattern pieces, it gave me the construction techniques. Next top tip is choosing the right fabric. So this is difficult. I'm not going to say I'm a master at this because I am not. But what I would say is my number 1 top tip is go onto the online retailers, look at similar garments to what you want to make, especially of the high-end brands, and look at what fabric composition they've got listed in the details. This is the best way to make sure that you're getting the right fabric. It's going to sit right, hang right, it's going to have the right stretch and movement for the garment that you want. Also on the fabric websites, they should tell you whether it's suitable for trousers or a skirt or a dress, and it should have some form of description. Any fabric websites where there is a video of them moving the fabric, talking through it, or even pictures of garments that have been made are also really, really helpful. As I do all these projects and make them, I'll suggest as many good fabric retailers as I can, and I'll let you know how I get on with the fabrics, because I'm very much learning on that front. But that is my number one top tip. Look at what the retailers are using. I know where I am on tips now. Tip number 9 is stick to the vision. So if you have a vision in your head, you buy the fabric, you buy the pattern, don't, when you're making it, compromise and think, oh, this will be a bit easier, or oh, I can't be bothered to do this. Stick to the vision, because otherwise you will make the garment, you put in so much effort making something, and if it's not quite how you envisaged it when it turns out, it's really disappointing in the end. So make sure you stick to what you think you were going to make in the first place. My last tip to making really, really key items for your wardrobe is make sure you finish them properly. So it's all good making a beautiful garment, it looks fabulous on the outside, but if you haven't finished the inside off, you haven't finished the seams off, it's not going to stand the test of time. And you kind of want to be investing in your wardrobe and spending the money on things that are going to last years and years and years and years, especially when you're buying beautiful quality fabrics and you're fitting them beautifully to yourself. You don't want that to be a bit tatty in a year's time. So take the time with the seams, take the time with the finishing touches. Make sure that you either overlock or French seam the inside so they don't fray everywhere. Make sure that you maybe do hand stitching to finish them off really beautifully. Those last tiny touches can make all the difference. Thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful. And I will see you in the next one with a sewing project. So, bye!